Hi, everyone, and welcome to Happy Not Satisfied, the show where we talk about finding joy from the process of growth. I am here, as always, with my amazing co-host, Ellie Morrison, and we are joined by a profoundly successful and inspiring person today. She started 2 software companies, bootstrapped one to be a multi-million-dollar company. You can find her work on NASDAQ, Fox News, Create and Cultivate, also on Eleanor Magazine, the publication from the amazing Ellie Morrison. She also founded what's called Catalytic Icon, which is this incredible platform for women entrepreneurs where she helps coach and motivate and inspire and do all the incredible things she does to make successful women business founders. So we are so delighted and honored to have Melissa Unsell-Smith with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Ellie and Dan. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, we thought you would be the perfect person to talk about Happy Not Satisfied with just having known each other for many years, having worked together on many boards, having supported each other in the growth of our own career journeys and various creative interests. I am dying to dive right in because you have always been somebody that I have looked up to and I've admired, and I have felt so fortunate to just having kind of been pushed into this board organization with you from a very young age. When I was 22, I always looked at you and I thought, Melissa has her life together. Melissa is it. And
I agree, by the way. Yeah.
I know. And we've had the real pleasure of growing together over the many years, but I really want to know what's beneath, like the most perfectly presented, amazingly accomplished Melissa Unsell-Smith. I'll be happy once let's dive right into it. Were there ever, in your journey along the way, having founded tech companies, having been a woman founder in these spaces of data privacy and very tech-focused things, have you ever struggled with the I'll be happy once mindset of only being happy or allowing yourself to feel joy once you've accomplished something?
100%. Yes. And thank you for saying that. And thank you for the compliment, by the way. It's an honor and privilege to know you both and to have learned more about you over our experiences together. It's been so much fun. And I'm so glad to be sitting here having this conversation. But absolutely, I think everyone always has an end goal, and the end goal is what's going to make them happy. And I have certainly had a million moments, especially being in a very high-paced hustle culture driven industry of tech that's also male dominated. So there's like this even like deeper, denser type of energy than feminine energy. It's like, oh, I have to go, I have to do this, I have to do this. And then feeling a notion of dissatisfaction when you don't have that. So one of the things that I have certainly learned over my journey and over my experience and my own personal growth, talking about like the iceberg underneath, it's not all beautiful and beautifully presented on the outside. There's a lot going on internally. One of the things I've certainly learned is that presence, gratitude, and counting your wins. And this is a practice that I have been instilling in myself for the past few years. And I think a lot of people can benefit from this because we all have the notion of, let's go. When I get to this point, that is success, that is it. But it's all about the journey and it's all about the ride. So I think having a moment where you have a centered state of presence to realize where you are right now and what you've accomplished so far is an amazing place to be. And over the past year, I've done something very profound. And I want to share it because it's done for me wonders. 3 wins a day. Document 3 wins every single day. I personally use a handwritten personal journal. Anyway, at the end of the day, I write down 3 things that went great. It could be anything, like I worked out today and I told myself I wanted to work out today. Check, that's a win. It could be winning a client. Actually, last week, I actually had a big sales call and it was a no. It was a complete no. And I recalibrated it to a win because there was learning in the no. Yeah. I said, oh my gosh, this is what I could do differently. This is how I can recalibrate. This is the learning in the no. And so I think this, I'll be happy when we need to get out of that mindset and learn how to be in the present moment, have that sense of gratitude for where you are, and nurture and honor your current wins. And that's been great for me because honestly, each month I look back and go, look at everything I've accomplished. And I also go back and track it for the year. And it's like that gives you a profound sense of proof of your progress forward.
I'm gonna start doing that.
I'm like, yes.
I'm like that is, because here's my big struggle,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking about this as you're talking. It's like I am so like good at, but it's a bad thing. Like normalizing the new reality, meaning something really good happened and something I was really working towards, and it happened, and it's like, okay, that happened now. This is the new normal, and like I don't allow myself to be proud of it,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a huge struggle for me, as Ellie can very well tell you.
God.
But like I love this idea of counting your wins because the little things are the big wins anyway. Like working out is a huge win, you know, like, 100%. Or I was even like, I was able to resist. There was a pizza party at work and I didn't eat 5 pieces. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff, that compounds. And like you said, by the end of the year, that's massive. It's huge. And so I'm so like, if no one else does it, I'm doing it. I'm going to report to you because I think it's going to be.
I'm sitting here thinking, okay, Dan better adopt this one. And
I know.
because
She's going to hold you to it.
This is like, we are so kindred because you came in here with like tangible things to do right off the bat. I'm over here like cheering internally because people could do these things. It's not just abstract, whatever. It's like literally do this and you will feel better.
Well, and speaking of tangible things that you give people, you offer people, that's what I love about what you are creating with Catalytic Icon, is that, you know, as you start out, this is my struggle. Dan shared with you his. Mine is literally...
Welcome to our therapy session.
Welcome to our therapy session.
Let's go.
I see the big picture and I see 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And I think I've said this to you at your dining room table at a tea that you hosted for women founders a few months ago. Like, I struggle working backward with what is the next step. Like, yes, you have the vision, but it's very nebulous. How do you give yourself a sense of accomplishment that you can build in on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that give you tangible things to strive for? And that's a lot of what you're doing with Catalytic Icon. Can you share about sort of the foundation of this? I love the story of how you decided that this was what you needed in your life at this time. It was a very pivotal moment. How are you giving these tangibles to other women? And tell us more.
Well, I would love to dive into that because I've been on my own journey of growth. I've had the honor and the privilege to have 2 tech businesses, which has been an amazing journey. I've also had the privilege to have intense time to have introspection and powerful pauses. And it's through this that I've kind of excavated my new self, my new identity, if you will, as Dan said, and leaning into that. But basically, I kind of came to this realization that I was seeking more meaning and purpose. And in reflecting on that, I also realized that early on, because I got to become an entrepreneur at a very young age. I was in my early 20s. And so there was some naivety involved. There was just some nuances of leaning into it and go in full force and driven. But what I learned now, looking back, and I had no awareness of this in the present moment. I did so much to manipulate my behavior to fit into an ecosystem and to succeed. And I think we've all done that in a moment of time. And I had no awareness of it until reflecting on it later. And then I realized, wow, I lost a lot of years just being who I truly was. And that felt very dissatisfying within myself. But 2, something very pivotal kind of happened on that. Just talking about kind of the nuances of being in that industry, manipulating my behavior to fit in and to succeed, I kind of wound up my nervous system. And eventually I felt completely numb, like completely numb. I felt no emotion. If there was a high, a big win, I had no effervescence in me to celebrate that. If there was a business low, I would be like, I don't care. You know, just kind of this victim mindset, like whatever happens, happens. But I was completely numb. I could not feel. And so that was kind of the whole precipice for me starting Catalytic Icon. I said, I really want more meaning and purpose. I want to allow people to be more vulnerable and authentic in their interactions, and lean into what is your clarity, what is your purpose, who is your true self, and can you shine that light wholeheartedly in everything you do? Because it takes so much more energy to pretend and prove than it does just to be yourself. And that's what I learned not too long, you all. Like, we're just talking about a few years. And now that I'm in my 40s, I think confidence comes with age and experience. I'm now at this time where I want to give a platform for other entrepreneurs to shine their light, reconnect with their purpose and clarity. And I do that by having these catalytic conversations and immersive experiences where we literally push the envelope of these conversations. And that's powerful because once you actually speak it, and I think Ellie experienced this at my dining room table.
I did.
When you say it out loud to a group of peers, it not only becomes real for yourself, and you can lean into that and honor it, but it allows others to see you for who you are and show up and support you. And I think that's beautiful. And that's why I created it. And I love it so much.
So cool.
Well, it's helping a lot of people. And it's been really amazing for me to watch you do this, because we were living in LA at the time. And I remember you reaching out to me saying, I have this idea, or maybe, it was over dinner.
Over dinner at
Manchushu.
Yes,
And we've had
a 4-hour dinner.
It was a 4-hour
Nice.
dinner. I was
Those
in
are the
town for work.
Yeah.
And you said to me, what do you think about this? This is what I'm feeling. And I said, it sounds amazing and I need it. Like, everybody needs it, but it's just been, you have grown it and built it. And can you share like a little bit of the tangibles of, okay, these conversations, what does the conversation look like where you are, because you are facilitating these kind of like group therapy sessions with women. And I feel like whether they're women or whoever, people need this.
I was
Like,
going to say, I would come to a tea.
I was
Dan
gonna
wants
say,
to come.
Dan wants to come to
If you
the
have a
next
tea that I'm invited to, I will come.
Okay, maybe we can invite them in for 1 or 2 seconds.
They need it just as much as we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But so these conversations, it first started out with, are you still doing like the digital rooms where you have women, it's like digital conversations and in-person conversations of women sharing their challenges, their truths, their fears, all of it.
Yeah. So definitely still having digital conversations, because I did start this 2 years ago. So we kind of had that thing called the pandemic where people were sequestered in their homes and seeking that connection. So that was a great opportunity for me to catalyze, pun intended, that idea. And so, I started that, but kind of the tactical things that happened. So I also started doing this and really felt kind of called to activate this locally here in our community so that people could, one, attend in person. And I'm really excited to expand and create these immersive experiences. Picture things like challenging hikes locally with dialogue that I facilitate, and with a chef dinner at the top of the mountain, like things like that. Like things.
Once again,
that really,
if I'm invited, I will be there.
Yes, I think we definitely have to open the aperture and let men participate in this for sure. Thank you, Dan, for letting me see my next phase of this. But certainly the reasoning behind this and the tactical things that come out of this are a few things. One, I do focus on entrepreneurs. When you're an entrepreneur, can be extremely isolating.
Yes.
And I found that especially in my young years of entrepreneurship. I was the youngest person building a tech company in San Antonio. I had no one else that looked like me. It was scary, but I went for it because I love it. That's just who I am. I'm an outlier. I love like specific, unique things. And I went for it. But it's so lonely. So I created it for that. So what we do is we talk about things that you can't talk about with your team, right? Like we talk about cash flow, talk about hiring and firing. We talk about capital, whether to be bootstrapped, whether to raise money, like these real tactical conversations that, yes, people may have advisors for their companies that they talk to. What I'm creating is a sacred space of trust and non-judgment. So there's like no filter. And we kind of have this underlying rule that anything we share is not meant to be shared out in the public with other people as you're visiting with people. It's to be an intimate community of supportive, collaborative people in a confidential, trusted place. Yeah, but we talk about all the things. And I love that not only do we talk about cash flow, hiring, firing, but a lot of what comes up is also personal, like what's going on in our personal lives that's inhibiting us growing our business. We also talk about our community lives. Are there things that you've committed to in the community, whether it's volunteerism or something else, or something with your kids' school that's keeping you out of alignment or moving your business forward? And how can you realign with that and recalibrate it? So the discussions we have, I feel like, are extremely meaningful and powerful.
I want to go down the wellness rabbit hole here, because what I'm hearing and what I felt in this session that I attended at this tea at your home, so much of your personal self, literally your cellular energy, affects everything and your business, right? And how you are. If you're an artist, it affects that. If you're a tech founder, it affects that. And it's something that we are now starting to hear more about, and it's starting to become more mainstream to talk about this. But I think one of the things that I personally experienced when I was younger was my awakening to these wellness practices that gave me a connection to my inner voice that it had been previously motivated by other factors, very clouded from things I was putting in my body that made me feel bad. Did you have a realization of this at some point that has helped you start to be more authentic and realize you wanted to go down this path in addition to being in tech?
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked this, because I think personal and mental well-being is really so pivotal to whatever your version of success is. I found that if you don't honor your body is a vessel that you are given to do what you do in life. So if you don't care for it, you're going to be either one, less productive, or two, not have the clarity and insights that you need to get to your next level, your quantum self, if you will, your next identity. And that is something, what do they say? What's the saying? There's ignorance in being young or something. Just it's wasted on the young.
Youth is wasted on the young. Yeah.
Exactly. Youth is wasted on the young. And as I am now entering my fabulous 40s, I kind of get that. Yeah. Because I did so many stupid things to my body when I was young.
We're not even going to talk about that for me personally.
Let's keep that a secret.
I think it's just like from an intuition standpoint too. When you were talking about the difference in the energy, like the more driving energy versus your listening to your intuitive self and really connecting with that divinely feminine energy, it's an interesting balance to strike, because I feel like, some days I have more of one, some days I have more of the other. But if I'm not clear, or if I'm out of alignment in some way, it doesn't allow you to listen to that real authentic voice. And so then, like what you're saying, it can pull you one direction, and then all of a sudden you wake up 15 years later and you're like, where am I? Who am I? What am I? What's going on? And we've talked to other guests about they have gotten to that point of feeling numb and saying, okay, something needs to change. Like emotionally, everything is out of alignment. And I find that really fascinating. Has this kind of connected to other parts of your, like, redefining what success has meant to you? Because I feel like coming from a very, like, I'll be happy once I achievement driven career in the beginning, softening that can take a while.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. You just asked something that I could talk 2-3 hours about. I will distill it in a few bullet points because this is such an important topic. But for me, well, one, if you just look at who I am as an individual, I'm in my 40s. I am married. I have a cute fur baby, Ravello, and I don't have kids.
Yeah.
So I am now thinking about, well, wait a minute. I have all this freedom and flexibility in my life that I've never really been in tune with until now. And I'm like, what does success look like for me right now? And I'm still figuring out what that is, but I love to travel. I love to challenge myself physically. I want to be mountaineering and alpining and rock climbing and rowing on the water. And what am I doing to like get me there and do that? So I think that one, it is hugely important for people to define success on their own distinct terms and not compare it to the market or other people or anyone else. That's a dangerous, slippery slope. And I also think that there's this notion of alignment. So I have created a decision-making filter that I use as my compass.
Love this already.
I make
so
decisions.
excited.
Dan's like, yes, let's go. So usually I reference a sheet with my questions on it, but let's see if I can remember. But I have several.
It's not
on there.
what are those things called?
Ooh, that's a good yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Or like the 8-ball with my questions
magic
in there.
8-ball, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great. I love it. But essentially, it's like, is this thing that I'm being offered going to put me in my courage zone? Does it excite me to the core, and will it give me financial success? Like, is it also going to be financially beneficial? 2, does it increase my value and worth that I am offering in the world? So for example, when you asked me to do this, if you look at those decision-making filters, am I in my courage zone? Well, sure. It's kind of tough to share your story and your journey. And is it something that like I love to do and is going to add value and worth? Well, hopefully my story adds value and worth to other people. So that's a yes and a yes. So let's do it. Yes.
All right.
But if you don't do that, you can very much get out of alignment and say yes to things that then become items on your calendar, responsibilities that you have to take care of that keep you from your true north. And that's why I think that's what I'm unlocking in my catalytic conversations and my immersive experiences. I'm unlocking this sense of desire and purpose and having you innately become aware of that, even if you're only spending 90 minutes with me, so that you can ignite that within yourself and have that as a compass to stay in alignment with your true north and what you define as success. I also think that there's a huge lesson to be learned here, and something I experienced early on in entrepreneurship is comparing and having these emotions of envy and jealousy. And when I look at that today, I say, okay, you have to use envy and jealousy as a tool to tell you what is meant for you or what you value.
Absolutely. We've been talking about the same thing.
Because if you see it in someone else and it is resonating with you from an energetic, vibrational place, it just means it's meant for you. And so write it down as your desire and figure out how to get there and make a decision-making compass that keeps you in that zone of interest so that you can get there. And that's how I look at that. I hope that makes sense, but that's how I approach it.
Oh, makes total sense.
It's okay. So I have a question for you. I have a couple actually, but with the decision-making compass, and I love that, and kind of following your true north and not putting things on your calendar to just kind of fill it up, which I am definitely guilty of and something I think about a lot. But here's my question. So somebody that's maybe younger and less established and still figuring it out and trying to blaze their trail, do you think that they need to be less willing to say no? Like almost like you have to kind of have to go through that period of not suffering, but like trying all the things and saying yes to something that in the back of your mind, I don't know if I want to do that, but there's kind of an element of having to sort of do it. And you kind of earn the right to then say no. Are you aligned with that?
I'm in line with that, Dan.
Okay.
I'm in line with that, Dan, because one of the key things is life experience, right? I mean, having that experience and knowing what you want to lean into and what you don't. So I think a younger version of myself, I did all the things, like make all your mistakes when you're young, do that. But I also think there is an opportunity even for younger individuals, perhaps even listening to this, to take a pause and think, okay, do all the things, have that energy, go for it. But when you're presented with a challenge or an obstacle, notice that as a learning opportunity. Like challenges and obstacles are there as a warning sign to tell you that you need to be course corrected in a new, more correct direction. And it's up to you to learn from those obstacles and challenges and figure out what the message is within that. So I think if I were to go back and tell my younger self that, I would have still done all the things, all the activities to learn what I enjoy and how my energy profile is and what fuels me up and lights me up, but also to have the mechanisms to learn from those challenges and obstacles that I did experience.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's an important point to make, because people who have the access and have the sort of ability to talk through a podcast, through a book, on the media, whatever, have already lived that journey and are on the other side and might preach, oh, balance, oh, this, oh, like, just, you know, we have to be very, like, protect your time. And I'm not saying that that's not true, but I also think it's somebody in a different stage of life, and then someone who is 22 taking that and thinking it applies directly to them.
Right.
And you have to go on the journey. You have to do things sometimes that you may not end up liking.
Yeah.
I mean, I went through tons of that, but you learn from it, and then you do kind of whittle away and you find your truth and what you want to live in. But you can't go from A to Z without going to all the letters in between.
I completely agree. You have to embrace the journey, go through the journey, and just come out of it the other side with who you are.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I want to talk about, that makes me think about this, there is no end. And when you were talking about the, you know, okay, well, you're in a phase of life right now where you have earned some freedom and flexibility that you didn't have, right? We don't have that as much when we're younger because of what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Taking all the opportunities on, filling the calendar, building, growing, grinding, all the things. So I love that you're talking about these physical challenges and just how you are wanting to conquer, you know, like, what does achievement, what does success look like in so many different buckets now? You know, I think when we're younger, I was just telling Dan, I don't know, maybe it was this morning, I can't remember, it's all running together. But I said, like, you know, it's interesting. I feel this shift in, now I'm not as focused or as worried about the what that I'm doing, but more so the who I'm doing it with and the why. And so it might not fit into, like, when you put everything into a portfolio, it kind of feels random, you know, but ultimately it's fulfilling. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm chasing a project for the who I'm getting to do it with and the why, not so much like, this is defining me from an ego standpoint. And I find that really interesting. And so I'd love to hear kind of how you are embracing this, like, there is no end in all aspects of your life now that you are in this chapter.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective to lean into, because one of the things that I am really illuminating for myself right now is this notion of being in my courage zone. And I think this creates the no end moment, because you keep constantly, as you move one step forward and another step forward, the path keeps clearing for you to do other amazing things that you're not even aware of that exist for you in the world. And so I am very much of the notion of leaning into courage zone, meaning that you're doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, but it also excites you.
It's the counterpart, the opposite, the comfort zone. Like, that's brilliant.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah.
So instead of staying in your comfort zone, which there are moments in time, I always try to be hyper aware of habits, routine, and inertia. Now, we all have moments in time where we need the habits and routine and inertia to produce or to do something, to execute on something we need to get done. But beyond that, we should all be engaging in our courage zone. And that is literally what I am doing with the immersive experiences for Catalytic Icon. It's like, let's challenge you in a physical and mental state so that you can experience what the courage zone is in a physical and mental state. And I personally love doing that from a physical standpoint, because then it trains your mind how to be. You basically have to train yourself to be comfortable being uncomfortable. But that's when you create quantum leaps for yourself. That's where there is no end, because you just keep growing and going and creating this momentum for yourself. And I am still on my own journey of that. I have a lot of courage zone growth that I need to lean into for myself. I am not perfect at it, but I'm really enjoying like having this conversation with others and talking about what that looks like for other people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I find that really inspiring. Okay, I want to talk about, because I know Dan will love hearing about this, your personal like self retreats that you take yourself.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like into the hill country with no phone for days. Yes. Please share about this and like what it has done for your ability to connect to yourself and like stop the noise and find your goals and all of it. Like I love this.
So I call them my solitude retreats because they are like you are with you yourself and that's it. So I started this in 2018 actually, and I went 2 nights, 3 days to a cabin in the hill country. No digital devices. I told my husband, I will call you if I need you. Otherwise, consider that I am okay.
He's probably like, all right, sweet.
Great. I'm going to watch TV, play video games, play with the dog, cook, mess up the kitchen. My husband loves to cook. So he's like, I can mess up the kitchen and I'll be just fine. She won't care. She won't even know.
I love that.
So he gets a retreat too. You're welcome.
Exactly.
But nonetheless, and no human interaction. Like it's just me, myself in the cabin. I allow myself to have magazines and books for like entertainment. But that's the only entertainment I have. I bring my own food because I can drive there. It's super easy. But that way I don't have to go to a restaurant. I mean, no interaction with people, none. So I sit in the cabin. I go for a walk if I want to, sit outside, I reflect, I journal, be introspective. I think it saved me probably thousands of dollars in therapy. This is very therapeutic, 100%. But fast forward, after doing that for a couple of years, I now do it twice a year.
Nice.
5 nights, 6 days.
Dang.
Wow.
And I want to up level it and go on a plane and travel somewhere and do something really cool. That would be amazing. But it is the execution part of it is really fun, like planning it, doing all of that. Every single time, like I've been doing this for years, every single time I drive up to the cabin, I get apprehensive. I get nervous. I have this anxiety like, oh my gosh, I have to be by myself for this many days, the deep breaths, like, am I going to survive this one? And what's going to come out of this one? Because you don't know. You don't know what will come out of it. After about a day and a half is when you really start to experience this true aperture opening of your awareness and your clarity. And it is so magical and so beautiful. I can't even describe it. What happens though is I've had so many, whatever you want to call them, downloads, intuitive leads, hunches, whatever you want to call them. And I just brain dump them. I've received so many ideas for my personal growth, for my business, for strategy, for friendships, who I'm hanging out with. Like you can't, the universe is speaking through you and you can't control what's going to come at you, but you have to be ready for it. I've also excavated some really like limiting old beliefs that weren't serving me. One retreat, I actually wrote down a letter to myself. And then I wrote down all of my limiting beliefs, and then I tore it up and I threw it like into the river that was right below my cabin, and I just washed away. I'm like, okay, bye.
Wow.
And that was very cathartic and therapeutic.
That's powerful.
But I think that those retreats, something like that, is really beneficial for anyone to lean into. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. Courage zone. I mean, it's uncomfortable. But it's also therapeutic, enlightening, and I remember one year I went on a hike for about 4 miles, and then I found myself just skipping on the trail. I'm like, I never skip. Why am I skipping? All this like joy and effervescence and so happy and enlightened. So every retreat is different because I'm in a different stage and different things come up and arise for me. But it really is for me a great way to reconnect with myself, my true north. And I feel like that helps me like show up for my family and show up for my friends and be who I am. And then I feel like that gives you permission to show up as you are.
Speaking my language. Speaking my language. Well, it just relates right into this thing that we spoke at NISA this morning to the students
high school
there.
Students,
And it's always interesting. Obviously, I have a lot of experience with high school age students, but their perspectives on things are just, different than people in different stages of life. But talked about this idea of how you can't put yourself last to put others first. And it's such a misconception of like this martyr mindset where I don't need to take care of myself. I don't need to sleep. I don't need to do these things because I'm giving to everyone else. But really, you're being selfish in a way because you could never give the best version of you. You could never raise them up to the level you want them to go because you yourself don't have it in you. And so I'm doing this retreat for sure.
Yeah, please
I'm
do.
definitely doing it. Yeah, she's
Bye.
like, yeah.
Ellie's gonna be the one cooking in the kitchen.
Exactly. I'm the one at home.
Sure.
There's
Yeah.
two types of
Yeah.
people in this
Yeah.
world. They always marry each other.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yes.
But I mean, I love this too because I'm fascinated by just having felt your energetic shift as your friend and like not even seeing you all the time, seeing you every so often. Feeling your energetic shift is big. I mean, I can, maybe because I'm sort of much more in tune with myself over the past several years, that I can pick up on that shift. But what I find really fascinating about you is that you have this real duality in you that like you've recently figured out how to embrace. And I think that it's so powerful to share this and to talk about this because what I'm finding is that kind of in my life and what that looks like right now is after having a child, like after having a baby, you're very in this like maternal, intuitive, listen to my body knows what's going on zone. And then it's a really interesting time where you're chemically changing back, right? And like you've got the kind of like not testosterone in the way that, but you've got this kind of alpha coming back, and then you've got this other part of you, and how do you make space for it all, right? So like what I think is really interesting about your path is that you were in this very like male driven field, and you were building a company and data and data privacy and cybersecurity, all these things. But then now you're very into like, you're talking about energy, you're talking about vibrations, you're talking about universe, I'm just so fascinated by how you're leaning into and like giving yourself permission to embrace these different sides of you and like really find the joy in being the outlier. And I think so many people can learn from that and feel seen by this and you sharing your story, because it is like we are all very complex. And I love that, your retreat, really what it says to me is like you're detoxifying, because we live in such we're almost, not poisoned is a strong term, but think of it in this relativity. Like we are poisoned by the constant messages that we're being bombarded by all day long, whether it's our digital devices, like the world news, whatever else. But our intuitions are already so powerful, and we are existing in theory as what we're supposed to be. We just have to listen. Like we have to be able to peel back the layers and listen. Like, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, but like, I just kind of like,
in there?
it's not really a question, but like,
I can riff off of this.
Yeah, just please riff, because I'm just like, I went rogue, but I'm so like, it's just inspiring to hear this.
Yeah, I could totally riff off of this, because I feel like doing those retreats led me to my next phase in life. And I feel like owning a tech business, and I'm still a part of that right now, but I'm also leaning into my next phase and excited to do that. And so there is this duality, and thank you for recognizing that in me and honoring my new energy that has come from a new passion and purpose that I've discovered for myself. And I think people need to give themselves permission to let it be okay that their passions and desires can and will change throughout their life. And mine is changing right now. And I am sharing it with the world. And when I first shared it with the world a couple of years ago by starting Catalytic Icon, that was a really scary moment for me. Talk about courage zone. Yeah. I had to say it out loud to people I was inviting to participate in these conversations virtually. And then I would pause and go, oh my gosh, I just said that out loud. And it both
it.
felt empowering. Like I just got goosebumps thinking about that moment in time.
Yeah.
So I think if my actions give other people permission to do that for themselves, yay. But I also feel like what you said about so many distractions. One of the things, so I am a unique individual. One, I'm a redhead, yay. 2% of the population. Two, my personality is like INTJ, which I learned is that it's called the architect personality.
Oh, wow.
It's also only 2% of the population.
I think I'm
God.
ENTJ, maybe. I'm close.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's close.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here going, wow, I'm a true outlier. I need to honor that and find my thing and go for it. But I really do feel like that makes me an interesting person because I think about things from such a divergent kind of mindset. But we are so distracted. Like our world is designed with so many distractions to keep us unconscious and to keep us unaware of our self-worth and to keep us unaware of our desires. So hello, that is what I have been put here on earth to do for others, is help you expose that for yourself. That is my moment in time right now with what I'm doing with Catalytic Icon. And I really want to be the person to help guide people on a journey to honor their energy and inputs and to set boundaries in the parameters of their day. What is not serving you, get rid of it. Make room for what is serving you. Make room for yourself. And like you were saying, Dan, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself first so that you can take care of others.
Yeah.
And I think we're just in that realm where people are starting to realize that. But there are so many distractions around us. And I am so particular about what I consume. And I barely consume any media.
Yeah.
I'm an introvert, right? So as an introvert,
Oh, that's the E in the I.
that's the E in the I. So you're an extrovert. I'm an introvert. So as an introvert, like I love doing stuff like this and I love public speaking and I love social events, but it just means for me to get my energy back, I have to like go be by myself.
Right.
Yep.
So, but I think if people really honor their energy and input, set boundaries around their day, and find this place where you know what your true north is in that moment of time, you're okay if it ever changes, but honoring that, as you're saying. And also, as I was kind of leaning into Catalytic Icon more, I found myself having to somewhat mourn an old identity. And our egos are built.
We've had a lot of that.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Oh my
a lot of
gosh,
that lately.
that was a moment. That was a moment in time. I remember sitting at the
It's
dinner
real.
table with Brian, my husband, and saying, I feel really depressed because I'm now leaning into this new version of me, and that means I have to give up the old me.
Yeah.
And I said, I was sad for 2 months. 2 months. Totally like just sad, and just felt heavy. And then it went away. Then it's like, okay, here I am. But you have to just honor those moments in time. And I knew what was happening. Like I had the awareness of what was happening because I'm plugged into my intuition. I honor my energy and inputs. I'm very protective of my time. And when you do that, the world opens up for you. And I just hope for others to come on their journey of realizing that. 100%.
Oh my gosh, my brain is exploding.
Yeah.
Are you taking this or am I taking this?
I have something, but if you want to,
I mean, the concept of mourning the old, that is so real. And people, I don't know, I think now maybe I'm hearing it more or with more honest conversations that people are having like in this forum. But I mean, I don't ever remember it being told to me as a young person. Like, it was very much like, yes, do whatever you want to do in life. You can do it, da 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 da. But like the complexity and the nuance of how it has really taken me aback of like, for example, I have known that I've wanted to be a mom. I've known that I've wanted to start a family, but like there is grief in that. And just with marriage, I remember feeling even like you're like kind of hungover in weirdness for a while after these life events that, you know, like culturally and societally, we do these things as human beings. Not everybody has to, but like if that's your thing, that's fine. But then you kind of find this period where you're like, what just happened? Like something changed. And that can be on the big level, like the big life events, but it can also be on the smaller side. So like I find it really weird that even when you when a goal that you've set out, like when a dream is starting to manifest and you're like, oh my God, I have wanted this from the time I was 10. Is this real? And then you expect that you're going to be like, oh my God, this is real. And then like the other day, something big happened and I felt grief.
Wow. Yeah.
It was like not grief, but almost like it was a very weird feeling. Like, why is there an element of darkness to this in my energy? And it's because it's like, oh, now it's no longer a dream. Like this is reality. It is accomplished. Yeah.
And that's why Happy Not Satisfied has to exist, right? Because you realize in those moments, like, oh, this isn't the be all end all. Like this is great, but this isn't it.
And it also simultaneously validated certain emotional challenges, right? That came along with it, and struggles and pain that like you feel in order to strive for something. And then if it happens, you're like, oh my God, like, the boundaries needed to not exist. Otherwise, this would have, like, there's certain weirdness in digesting these things that come along in life. And like, grief is there, mourning is there, and we change and we shift. And like, it's okay to understand and embrace that, like, you will feel these things and like sit in it for a minute.
Just sit in it.
Yeah.
And let it release 100%.
I love that.
Yeah. No, I love that. Like even in the joyful moments, there is grief because you're mourning something. You're mourning the old you. Now you've reached what was your end, but now it's only the beginning. And you have to start all over again.
Exactly.
Like, here you go. Here's your new up level.
Yeah.
And now you have to go from there.
Well, and people who are going through grief also say there is joy in grief.
Right.
So like, I think that it works both ways. And we just, I'm kind of, these conversations in this platform have really helped me to learn that it's common within everybody. It's just wanting to talk about it.
We have to talk about it.
Exactly.
We have to talk about it. And I think we all have this essence of ego too. Right. And ego played a very important role, like early on in civilization, right? It was there as a mechanism to keep us physically safe. Mm-hmm. Now we still have ego, but we don't have the same threats as we did early on in civilization. Exactly. Dan's like, I've already heard that.
Yeah,
I know this already.
Well, no, I mean, how fast our society has evolved compared to not how fast our brains have evolved is really, that's where so much of our issues come from.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's like, if you can just be aware of that, right? And be in check with the ego, and that it's there to protect not only your current identity, but past identities. And if you want to move forward, you have to ignore it and move forward. Like that's not going to serve you moving forward. So I think, but there's a lot of emotion involved in that because that's connected to so many parts of our brain. And there's a whole like scientific process behind that. And it's just incredible. But just having the awareness of it, I think is the first step.
With so many things, awareness is the way. It's so true. I want to ask one more thing, and it's from way back, but it's been burning in my brain this whole time when you talked about being numb and like kind of not feeling the highs and also not feeling the lows. I think that's super interesting, and I think sometimes we do that because we don't want to feel the lows, but then it also blunts feeling good when you deserve to. And so I'm curious if, first of all, like, did something happen? Did you have an awareness? Did you do something to move out of that into allowing yourself to feel? And then, like, how do we reconcile, if you're going to feel the highs, then you have to allow yourself to feel the lows, but then how do you make it so the lows don't destroy you?
Yeah, if I were to really think back, I guess I knew I felt numb when I wasn't really reacting to anything in my life. And I was like, wow, this is really bad. Like what happened to me?
Yeah.
Where am I? Where are my emotions? And emotions are such an important part of navigating life and intuition and all of that. So, but to answer your question, it was, I 100% afford it to the solitude retreats. So it was when that was happening that I had the awareness and started to unfold that and started to feel again. Like I have cried, I've danced, I've skipped on these retreats, but like feeling the emotions, getting it out, is very pivotal. Also having an amazing husband who I have conversations with, he makes me laugh and all of that. But I also noticed that translating like into my personal life and my relationships.
Yep.
And that was also like a light bulb to say, what am I doing to myself? What's going on here? How do I get myself out of that? And then I saw the benefit of doing the solitude retreats and kept doing that. And that's when that really helped me uncover the layers of that. In addition to that, after the solitude retreats, I would lean into being the future version of myself that I wanted to be instead of just playing into my current role. And that pushed me out. And that, like, energetically aligning with the future version of yourself creates that expansiveness where you feel excited. And now, I mean, I am happy to report I am no longer numb.
Oh, yeah.
You seem very not numb.
You know,
That's great.
having that like effervescence and sense of alignment is like so amazing and incredible. And I think it's fun to talk about, but it's also hard to describe and explain the journey because it's so specific to each individual.
I don't know. I think we might need a new partner in Happy Not Satisfied.
I mean, really.
you like have the lingo even. I mean, it's
I know.
amazing.
We're on the same wavelength.
We're
I
on the
think
same
we are.
journey.
I mean,
truly.
talking about making decisions that your future self will be proud of. That's to me a form of kind of how to have self-discipline. Because, you know, I sort of subscribe to like discipline is freedom and discipline is self-love and all those things. But it really boils down to what you're saying of like your future self. You're doing these things so that you wake up the next day, in a week, in a month, and feel like a better version of yourself because of what you did that day.
Totally. Oh, I 100% agree.
And kind of commenting on the numb thing, I think it's really interesting. I wonder if it's related to your nervous system and like being in flight or fight state for a really long time, because I felt numb this summer. I went through after I got through the initial like just shock of what it entails to like mother a newborn and all of that. Like you're like, I'm good. But your body chemistry is also changing throughout that time. And I found like when we moved back to San Antonio after being in LA, I just felt my intuition screaming like, you need to get back there. And as soon as we got here, I thought, okay, great. We're here. I'm good. Oh my God. Like everything came out. And I turned to Dan and I said, I feel numb. I can't feel anything. I feel numb. I don't know what's going on. And so then it started okay, you are stuck. Your energy is stuck. It's Chinese finger trapped. Like we need to work on this. And so, you know, but that happens, right? That can happen at any time, at any life transition, any career transition in your life. I feel like this is normal that we get into this space. And how do you start to do the work to kind of unravel it? That's, I think, the distinction, you know, is okay, we are here, accept what is, let's figure out a plan to move forward, you know? And then the other thing that I love to hear you say about your retreats was your like just feeling the emotions and letting yourself go through all of these different things and kind of like shedding the expectation of who your identity was. Like this concept of you've had multiple identities before. That's another thing that I felt during that time when I was feeling numb and the coming back from it. I felt like it was a very weird experience. Like I was living two different versions of myself. And I would tell Dan, like, I feel like I'm here, but I'm physically here. And like my brain is here. And I was trying on all these different past identities as I was coming into what I feel now. I feel very strong, my most like grounded, all these things. But it was weird that I felt like, okay, am I a theater person? Am I a writer? Am I all these different chapters of myself? It's like I had to retry them on as hats emotionally and mentally for a series of months until I kind of came back to myself. Did you find that too to be true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, so if I were to just bullet point, kind of my life journey. Like when I was a kid, just like you. So I didn't do theater and sing, and don't ask me to sing. I cannot sing, but I love to dance. I love to be on stage. I love to perform. I grew up dancing competitively. I also had opportunities. I was in band. Dan, you would appreciate that. Yeah. Yes. I played the flute and the saxophone.
Nice.
And then my teacher, my band director said, I want you to start a color guard, and I want you, because I was in dance class, she's like, you get to teach yourself flags.
That's awesome.
And you get to recruit your team, and you get to choreograph and do everything. And I said,
I didn't know
what?
This is crazy. This is so, I love it. Yeah.
So, so I had all these opportunities to lean into leadership opportunities and my true talents that were so effortless for me. I taught myself how to play the saxophone. My teacher said, I want to form a jazz band. Melissa, you're playing this instrument, go teach yourself.
Nice.
I want to do a color guard. Melissa, you do this, go do it. And I just had someone that believed in me and gave me the platform to do it. And I did it with effort, with ease, and with grace. Like that is the words I remember at my younger age. Fast forward, college. Same thing. Like I was involved in all the things in college. I was the president of everything. I was a great leader. I was like, had my people. And then I entered this journey of entrepreneurship. And that was a journey of execution, right? You're executing, you're doing things. But we were talking about earlier, your younger self, just doing all the things to learn and get the experience.
Yeah.
And then after just years and years of buildup of manipulating my behavior to something that wasn't really me, that spun me and wound me up into this tight nervous system that I was to become numb. And now I'm unraveling myself again. And I think that's totally okay. I honor that. There's nothing about this that I resent. Like everything is on my journey is meant for me to have experienced, and not only benefits me now, but will help me serve others in the future. But now I feel like so when I think about you talking about all of the things you've done and all the things you identify with, I picture it as diverging back into it. Actually, let's say converging. So convergence. Everything then converges back on itself. And that's where I feel like I'm at. Like this whole performing mentality. Like, no, I'm not on stages speaking, but like I am performing and facilitating for these wonderful groups of entrepreneurs that I welcome into my community, and just kind of thriving in a leadership way with ease and grace that I felt at that younger age. It's almost like I've come full circle and everything is converging upon itself again, and it's beautiful. And maybe we're all meant to live in a direction like that. But I think I feel very proud and honored, and like don't want to waste any time doing anything different right now, because this is what I'm called to do. So it feels really great. And I totally resonate with what you just said, because we are multifaceted being. We all have different interests, and I think it's amazing to just embrace that. And then it all comes together at one point in time when it's meant to.
Yes, so true.
Yeah.
Oh man, standing ovation.
Standing
So
ovation.
good.
Really.
I don't think we
truly.
can top. I don't think we top that. I mean, this has been just such an incredible conversation.
I want to talk for hours and hours more. We need to have dinner.
Have dinner and do this
Dinner
again
soon.
sometime. And
Yes.
like we are, I've known you not as well as Ellie has, but like this conversation has enlightened me to how aligned and kindred you and I are, which is really
I've always
cool.
felt that.
Yeah, I was just like, God, you speak my language. So anyway, is there anywhere like we can find you or your companies or anything like that online, or what does that look like?
I mean, right now, go find me at catalyticicon.com.
Perfect.
There's information there, and contact me there if you're interested in joining one of my events or my immersive experiences that I'll be planning. I'm happy and delighted to welcome people in, and perhaps I'll consider opening it up to men.
All right, I'm gonna keep pushing.
He's gonna
on
hold me
that.
to it.
Yeah, tea and hiking and
could do like a
chef mountaintop dinner.
Yeah,
I'm ready for
Catalytic
it.
couples for like
Look at that. Look at the
entrepreneurial
alliteration.
couples.
It's meant to be.
Right?
It's meant to be.
Like,
Let's
like
do it.
people
Yeah.
in business together. That could be interesting.
Because that's a whole
It could be
nother
cool.
spectrum, being in
It
business
is.
together.
Yeah. Oh, we
100%.
have some insights on that for sure.
Great. To be continued.
Yeah, absolutely.
Continue.
Well, thank you so much. Incredible conversation.
Yes.
You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at
All the things.
happy.notsatisfied. And we will catch you next time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.